This information is for educational purposes only and is not intended for medical advice.
Welcome to Enhancing the Human. I'm Dr. Jenna Gatzis, a renowned expert in the field of human enhancement. I've spent decades of my life exploring all aspects of human health, which has allowed me to take people from extreme injury and disability to peak athletic performance. I use cutting-edge advancements, breakthrough technologies, and scientific insights to push the boundaries of human capabilities. The human body is able to do so much more than you think. Let's start enhancing the human. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are here with Charlie Weingroff. He is a prominent figure in physical therapy and athletic performance. He works with some of the top A-list clients and celebrities, pro athletes, the general population, and also some of the greatest teams known all over the world. Charlie has several years working with professional athletes, and he uses many different tools and modalities in his practice. And we want to find out what tools he's using, how it's helping people, and how he's improving performance and actually preventing injury. Let's get to it. So first of all, thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Okay.
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 I just want to tell our audience a little bit about how we met. We both speak for Perform Better, wonderful company. They're very big on education, on workout equipment, fitness equipment, sports, strength and conditioning, everything. So we were in Rhode Island.
Okay.
And
No.
you were also there,
yeah,
though.
I
Do you recall?
I was there.
And so I remember I was still in grad school. It was my last year of grad school. And I had gotten the job with Joe Gibbs Racing. It was a NASCAR team. It was 6 NASCAR teams, 3 motocross teams. They actually wanted me to quit school and start right away without graduating. And I said, no, if I'm that good, you'll wait for me to graduate. And so I was like, there aren't a lot of people that do strength and conditioning, sports performance stuff, and physical therapy combined. And, people are very one avenue and they're one track mind. So I'm like, okay, let me ask Charlie what he would charge. And, just to...
I don't remember it like that at all, but okay.
And so, Drew, remember Drew?
Yes.
So one of my friends knew you and they were like, why don't you ask him? He does what you do.
Yeah.
And so I went up to you and I introduced myself and, we were at the after party for all the speakers at Chris's house. And you're like, you're not going to get that job.
No. Okay. First of all, that's true. That's totally what I said.
No, you said you're stupid.
Oh, no. That I cannot attest
No, you
to.
did. You were like, well, first of all, you're stupid.
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
people love that though. Like, you should be surprised how much people love when you call them stupid.
I think it's funny. I mean, I never get to take offense to anything people say. It's all there.
If I said that, I apologize. I don't remember calling you stupid.
No, you don't have to apologize. I think it's funny because you thought that I was ignorant and that I'm like,
I thought
bad head that's going to think I'm going to get this job when I'm not, which I completely understand.
The way I remember you asking, first of all, I'm guilty as charged. I did everything that you said, but what I thought was that you were trying to get the job. I didn't know that you already had the job. Right. So I was totally wrong.
Then you were like...
Totally wrong.
They have people that are like on wait lists for those jobs. And there's people that find people to get these jobs. And there's a whole process behind it. I was like, yeah, I get the process. I already got the job.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that
and you were like, no. I was like, no.
No. Because like it would be rare. It would be rare for somebody that didn't have experience. Yeah. So that was what I thought you were asking,
right?
Where maybe I was tempering your expectations for something, but I was wrong.
Right.
Totally. So here, cuff me. Guilty as charged.
No,
I do not remember calling you stupid.
No, you did for sure. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I probably did.
You did.
I probably did.
It was funny. But it's hilarious though, because you helped me and you helped me decide what to start with as far as salary. So, I negotiated with them and it was a great job.
And you dominated. You did it and you did very well.
Bunch of championship rings and then moving on to LA. So that's how we met. But how did you get involved with Perform Better?
Perform Better?
Yeah, like how did you start your whole... I know you were in the Marine Corps. Tell us a little bit about just how you started. I like hearing people's origin stories.
Well, let's see. So when I was in PT school, similar...
You always knew you wanted to...
No. When I was in undergrad, I wanted to be an ATC. And that was... So back then...
Athletic trainer, so people know.
Certified athletic trainer. And that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't even have PT on my radar because I didn't really think what PTs did is something I wanted to do.
Right.
And at that time, that was probably true. And I guess I could have gone the doctor or orthopedic route, but it just, at that point, it wasn't what I wanted to do. When I met my supervisor, her name was Dr. Tina Whalegum. She said, Charlie, your grades are too good. You should try to go to PT school because you're already doing pre-med stuff anyway. And if you don't like it, then the worst thing that can happen is that you're a better marketable ATC. I'm sure I could tell you more, but I could skip a bunch of steps. That's pretty much exactly what happened. Because I don't think I was 10 years after graduating PT school where I actually worked as a PT. But almost every role I got was because I had this one up on other ATCs.
Right.
So I was always an ATC. And when I was in PT school, where I would do my hours, like, work as an aide or a tech, there was a minor league basketball team that was being set up where I live. A couple towns up, there was a minor league basketball team. And I started to work there because I was already an athletic trainer, certified athletic trainer, while I was in PT school. PT school was like for masters. So a few years later, I'm graduating PT school, and I always thought that I wanted to either be in football, football check, military check, and pediatric physiotherapy. Very few people know that about me, and because I don't really talk about it, but I challenged children, which is a whole nother animal.
And
Yeah, one of the coaches, I won't get into so much, but one of the coaches was with the New Jersey Nets a few years before, and I asked him. That I said, "Hey, when you were with the Nets, like, is it the same athletic trainer?" Basically, he gave me his name, and I called that. His name was Ted Arzonico. I called him on a Thursday. I interviewed on Friday, and I was in the NBA on Sunday. Totally all who you know. Now I had to present myself in an ideal fashion, but that was that. So
that was while you were still in PT.
no, that was when I graduated.
Oh,
That was when I
okay.
graduated. That was probably my third year after being in PT school. I kind of walked into MBA. I was assistant athletic trainer, New Jersey Nets, and being a PT probably helped.
Right.
But it wasn't a PT role. At that point, PTs weren't in pro sports.
I was going to say, because, I mean, people don't know this, but PT is fairly new in pro sports. Like,
there is,
it's
depends who
not
you
common.
ask. There are people that would think that, how do I put this humbly? Not my jam. But there's a lot of people that would think that I was the one that brought performance PT into professional sports. A couple years later, when I was in the minor leagues for a few years, and then I came back to the 76ers, and where my first year I was assistant athletic trainer, but then I became the head strength coach. And that's where, at least at that point, there was definitely no strength coaches that were also PTs, which now is like a somewhat of a normal thing.
Yeah.
And
still rare though.
It's different organizations that kind of believe in it. Like, there's certain organizations, they won't hire anybody who's an ATC and not also a PT. And that's really hard to do now. A few generations, you could come and it was easier to be an ATC and a PT. Whereas now it's much harder. Like, if you don't decide to do it right away, it's almost impossible.
Right.
You'd be like 40.
I remember because I was going to switch over, I did exercise science, and that same thing. I'm like, I'm not starting all over.
Yeah. Whereas during my day, you could just get your courses. Like, you could get it from here, and then you just show, hey, I did all this.
Right.
Then you were just as good as somebody that went through like a credentialed program. Whereas in PT, even back then, you can only go to this place.
Right.
So yeah, that would have been like the middle 2000s, where that's where maybe probably around the same time where the internet started to burgeon a little bit, and a lot of people had their stars start to shine. That's when I, somewhat people maybe recognized me or et cetera. And that was, so that was the second team I worked for in the NBA. And then just like, unfortunately, like a lot of people in pro sports, get hired to get fired at some point. Then I worked in like the real world a little bit, but that's when social media started to boom. And then I was probably at a point because I worked for like a hospital near where I lived, and they were making a lot of money off of me because I was able to like build these satellite clinics for them, where it looked like now very, very normal. You walk into a physical therapy office, it looks like a gym. That wasn't normal in the 2000s. And because I was a PT, they could bill physical therapy, but they could market this other thing that is now very, very normal.
Right.
And because it was a hospital, they could bill way more than, like, it's just like the way the laws are. If a hospital accepts charity, they can get charged way more than like a regular office if we opened an office and charged insurance. So, when you work for somebody else, especially a hospital, your head hits the ceiling, somewhat quickly.
What do you mean?
Meaning you're not going to make more money. They're not going to like change things for you to be special.
And it's a high stress environment the entire time, and you deal with a lot of lawsuits too. Crazy.
It wasn't for me anymore. I was growing out of it, and looks like for anybody, it's very rare if you're going to work for somebody else and you're really going to be able to spread your wings and start to be special. Or it just wasn't for me.
Right.
So
you just kind of stay in the box of billing for insurance.
Yeah. And that situation was probably better than others. Like I had literally an unlimited continuing education budget. So they did things to kind of get me to stay,
Okay. Yeah.
but it didn't. And so then the next big thing that came up was I became the lead physical therapist in United States Marine Corps Special Operations Command. And obviously that's another kind of glorified, position. And so I wasn't active duty. I was what's called an essential warfighting civilian, and I would still have to do things, maybe not certainly not at the same level as active duty Marine. And so I was there from 09 to 11, and same thing, like because it was new. Maybe some of the parallels to when you got into NASCAR. They say they want to do things, but they didn't really want to do it. So then I moved on again, and that's when I would be working for myself. That's when I partnered with Don Saladino in New York City, moved back kind of to home.
You guys had Drive 45.
Drive 495. I think at 1 year, I don't remember, but it had to be like 13 or 14. We were the number one ranked gym, some kind of social media list that wasn't like corporate. So it wasn't Equinox, it wasn't Crunch or anything. We were like 4th or 5th in New York City. It was actually a point that I was bigger on social media than Don, believe it or not. Don
has a huge following. We had Don on the podcast.
Yeah, so he and I are like brothers. So so that's where I would kind of work for myself. But because in international basketball, it's not a full-time thing. It's like just like soccer. It's 4 times a year. So I took a role to become director of performance for men's Canada basketball. Now Canada is basically second best basketball country on earth. It kind of always was, but we didn't have a national team that just dominated. There was a point, I think in maybe 2000 was like the last year. Right now, as the time we're filming this is the first 24 years later. And even though we would have been anyway, like the most players in the NBA, the most success, blah, blah, blah. But we could never get our players to actually play when it mattered. So we couldn't qualify as often as other teams. So I was the director of performance for 10 years. And because I was able to work, you just start working in New York City, you kind of leverage social media the right way. So lots of other opportunities for one of my best friends who I came up with. We were interns with the Celtics. I left some parts out. He got a full-time job with Nike, and they did the right thing. They offered me full-time at Nike. And if they had called like a month before, I would have gone. But things in New York City really started to roll. But they did something that's very, very rare. They're like, Charlie, we know this probably isn't going to work, but we're going to let you decide. Usually people don't do that. They're like, oh, they'll never do it, or it's not enough money. We don't want the person to be overqualified or whatever. So instead, they basically paid me like 60% of the salary and as a consultant. And then I was there for like 6 or 7 years. And then our department was basically working with Nike. They're called assets, which is obviously not a very sensitive thing, but our department was to protect assets. That was one of the 3 things we did.
Out of Drive 45?
No, this was separate. I would see people there because if there was a Nike project in New York City, I kind of was there.
So you were dealing with them too?
Yeah, so I worked at Drive. I consulted at Nike. But that's where I started to meet a lot of other professional athletes. And part of my deal, I wouldn't be shaking people down, but they would be like, hey, are you available to work with me like during the season? Or can you come out to wherever and put us through a camp and things like that? And Nike wanted that. They wanted their people to
They would be a part of it too.
Yeah. So my resume is kind of cool. Now, I would never have worked with a celebrity if I wasn't in New York City. I did get some celebrities without Don, but very few. But if I didn't work at that PT place where I grew up, I never would have been in minor league basketball, and then never would have had a pretty interesting resume.
Interesting. And with performance and physical therapy combined together, what were you seeing as an ATC? Because I know a lot of PTs weren't on the sidelines. They weren't, in the field with these athletes. So it was a lot for me too with NASCAR to correlate different things and then to do preventative care too.
Yeah.
So not just letting people get hurt. But what were you noticing?
So I think in the beginning, before I became the strength coach for the 76ers, I probably would describe myself as very generic. When you're young, you think you know everything anyway. So I'm sure I didn't suck, but I don't remember that. Like I felt like, okay, I never felt like I knew anything that anybody else didn't know. Or
Right.
I even had one of my professors from PT school. He wanted to be an ATC, so I took him as my student. That was like the deal. So I got all this, but it would have been something that maybe you or I would look back today. That's generic, or maybe use stronger words. But especially in the minor leagues now, there you're the head athletic trainer, you're the equipment manager, you're the strength coach, you're the team mother, you're the banker. You do everything.
That's how it was in NASCAR.
And that's a very typical minor league situation.
But it's the best case scenario because you learn so much about every aspect of their lives.
There's you have to work, like you literally work 24 hours a day, and that was my life, and that's kind of how I climbed the ladder.
What did you find with all the different modalities and things that you've used, the techniques, the different methodologies? What did you find really helped change people?
I think right now I can say it better than I did then, but I kind of like believed it. When you try to create a solution, it should be there's like a ski slope, and there's like the ski slope that doesn't exist. It's like one route here, one route here. What this route is like the body's structure, like what the joints can do, whatever words, mobility, flexibility, etc. Like, can joints actually do what you want them to do? And if they can't, are they really damaged? Meaning, is this thing broken? At which point there is no rehab. Like, surgery has to be part of this. At some point, medicine has to be considered. It should be considered in the right point, but at some point, structure matters. Then this lane is fitness. Because if they're good, let's say on the front nine as a golfer, but they suck on the back nine, it's not that they can't do it. It's not that their structure is the problem, it's that they're not properly fit for their sport or activity. So even if it was just those two, you kind of have to mix them, and then you draw a red thread. And then the technical skills of their sport. So there are sports that I know, but I won't coach them. So for instance, I use golf as an example. When somebody comes to Florida, and this is what we look at, we put them in this super high-tech video analysis, but I would say, Jenna, I'm not doing this I will not coach you in your golf swing. I want to see what you do when you swing, because that might actually explain why your elbow hurts when you do this. Because you just told me if you stop playing golf for a month, your elbow feels fine. Maybe it's not an elbow problem, but then if I treat your shoulder, your elbow gets better. If I don't look at your golf swing, it doesn't do anything. So you have to mishmash all of those things. And that's where, when you ask those questions, then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit easier. But at a high level, especially for explosive athletes, which is very different than others, it would be the structure. Because part of what makes them really, really fast and really, really explosive is also what probably leads to certain types of injuries.
Yeah, and just trying to maintain the range of motion that they have at the joint so the joint can function and the structure can produce the force that it needs and transfer the load correctly so that you're not inflaming joints while you're performing. You're actually benefiting your health. So, but again, that's not really looked at. Even now, I mean, back in the 2000s, yes, but now even it's not common because the cooks in the kitchen, you hear other medical providers that don't do preventative work, and then they try to just poo-poo on what you're trying to do. So it's the psychological aspect of everything is really important because your message, if you can't get it out clearly and with confidence, then you don't get heard because people don't trust what you're doing.
Yeah, these are all just different. So the social constructs, because nobody knows how to do everything, but anybody should know enough to know what the person needs.
Like I had my patient tell me, how come whenever I work out with you, I feel amazing and I feel good the next day. And whenever I work out with so and so, I feel like shit. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, but pay attention to that. Like you're getting better every single day. And, you've worked with them for, I don't say this, but you've worked with them for 20 years and, never lost a pound. So, and you're in
There's
pain.
other ways. I think I would say like, what's your job? You're a this. I'm like, let me ask you a question. You good at your job? Yeah. In order for you to be good at your job, and there's nothing wrong with saying you're good at your job. Everybody should think they're good at what they do. Otherwise, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
in order for somebody to be good at their job, somebody else has to suck. Like that has to be. Like that's the laws of physics. Like that's probability.
I had a guy that wouldn't comment on the lumbar spine when his specialty was the thoracic spine. And I'm like, how do you
Yeah.
not know about the lumbar spine? How do you not know about the rest of the body, let alone the spine that your spine sits on top of? So it's pretty interesting. But
Well, that's there's times I would typically not do that only because for me, like
I like
I've had
learning.
enough repetitions and I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to do anything that makes me mad because I don't do well when I'm mad. So
What about that would make you mad?
that at the end of the day, if I cannot be successful at changing how that person, if I believe I'm right, doesn't mean I am right, but if I believe I'm right, then I've lost. And you kind of know going in, like you can't move a mountain all the time.
The thing is with some of these people, because I've given them so many other results and I'm always true to my word, they tell the doctor, well, she does ABC and has helped me with ABC. The doctor's like, you know what? Just do what she says. And I'm just like,
That's
that's
different, yeah.
insane.
Because that comes from the patient.
Yeah.
I'm saying so it's like there's this triangle and
But also they know themselves well enough to know they don't know what they're saying to the
yeah.
point where they trust what I'm saying more. And that's kind of scary.
No, that part can easily work.
Yeah.
Because I would say something like, listen, I'm not going to talk to so and so unless you're on the call. That way they'll know I'm speaking coherently, respectfully, and then it's easy. Then I can
Yeah.
also set them up.
No, I always speak together. So everything,
Yeah.
because people remember things differently and it's
Yeah.
just easy to, have clear communication and, it's out in the open. You tried yeah, you want to try my red light
I'm gonna
therapy
put this
helmet?
on.
My transcranial
It's gonna
photobiomodulation.
leave me with a haircut like Lloyd Christmas.
It actually will grow your hair.
Oh, I gotta do this.
So the glow
I
one.
used to have hair like Ashton Kutcher, and one day it was gone. I gotta
Woke
find
up
that
and
barber. All right, what do I
you
have to
woke
do?
up and it was just gone.
I'm gonna do glow.
Glow
I'm gonna do
is the
glow.
one for hair growth.
Oh, good. Okay, continue.
I'm like, don't drop it.
It's on.
You'll feel the heat too. It
Okay,
heats.
good. I'm glad.
As far as your modalities that you found the most beneficial for your people, because again, it's rare to, just like with NASCAR, I had to deal with every part of their life. It was the longest season in pro sports. So I wanted to do whatever I could in their daily lives to help them reduce inflammation, reduce stress so that my job was easier on the back end. But what kind of modalities have you seen work the best for your athletes and just give you results with injuries and performance?
Based on how we typically work, there's not a lot of passive. Not because I don't believe in them. It's because if I'm there for 2 days, they can do it other days. Like I don't
But do you
feel
recommend?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
But the stuff that we're doing is mainly manual therapy and dry needling. There might be other things sometimes, but not really. Like but anything can work. It's just some things work better than others.
Right.
You're not laughing. This is not that funny.
Hilarious. I like the combination of the colors. They look like a creamsicle.
Oh, good. Um, but when it comes to some of the passive things, players will come back and like, yeah, it's fine. Like did it do anything? And then obviously when they're with a team, that you have to be respectful to the plans that they want to run. Not always. Sometimes it works like this, and other times it doesn't. If you work with a superstar, they just tell the team like, I'm going to do what Charlie says. Don't worry about it. But I'm not against any of these things. It just needs to support the plan, and the plan always ends with exercise and training and force production and direction. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
So if
People
you
get stuck on the manual.
yeah,
They think that that's
it
the
will
end
do
all be
literally
all.
nothing.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Until your brain takes it over and you're able to actually control the coordination yourself.
yeah. I'm very clear on telling people that you might feel better, and that's a good thing. That's not
Yeah.
to be minimized.
Right.
But you didn't really get better.
Right.
And I will never sell someone on, okay, this is great. For this hour, 90 minutes, your goal was to feel human. So, but this won't last. It doesn't mean if you don't want to come back and see me, that's fine. This is what I think you can do. But when it comes to a lot of other things that would fall into like recovery, they all have merit to some degree, some more than others.
Right.
But it's number one, like, do they even need to recover? It's not a commentary on the quality of what this device does.
Right.
But at what point are you either training hard enough or your stress in life is so like, did you even measure this? And do you even know?
Right.
But people like these things because they're passive. And if it's like certain things are relatively uncomfortable, like a cold plunge or a sauna, etc. But at what point did you know you needed that?
Right.
Like, because you
And at
told
what
me.
point is it a stressor or an external stimuli that you're shaming yourself for because you didn't do it? So I get a lot of that too, where people are like, I didn't do that, and I hear them. I'm like, listen, you're not a failure. Like that right there is causing inflammation because you've said it 15 times since I've been here for 10 minutes. So instead of it being an external stressor, forget that you didn't do it. Forget you ate that taco. Like move on because you're creating issues without even realizing it. So yeah, it can be a stressor too if you add too many things to someone's plate that's already loaded. Sometimes people don't take someone's life into consideration. They have families, they have kids, they have this, they have that. Like they can't do cryo 15 times for the week, or you know what I mean? So you're right. It's the objective way of what is it doing physiologically? Do they need it? Is it joining in with the plan? And then how can they accomplish what you want them
It
to?
has to work.
Yes.
But if we don't measure, then you don't know.
Exactly.
But then for each of the different things you may choose, like that,
Mhm.
there should be some objective reason to say, I should put on the white hat and look like a creamsicle instead of the cold plunge or instead of something else.
Exactly.
Like we should, and no one really knows these things because people wouldn't buy them if they were, oh, wait, so there's under these three circumstances, the white hat will work. But under these four, they probably won't. Said no one ever. So, but
yeah, I love that's all I think about.
it's like,
like that's all I think about.
there's no reason to think that every choice is always going to work for you.
No.
Much less, are you even training hard enough
For
this?
that.
And then, at what point did you run the gamut of sleep, nutrition, and breathing,
crazy.
which is all relatively free?
And you don't do any of that or think about that, and then you're doing, the cryo, and like it's not going to do anything. And as far as change, you're not going to make a change if the foundational aspects of health aren't even being considered.
That's but I know that it comes off backhanded, and that's okay. But it's not like the thing doesn't do what it. Now, there's definitely things that don't do what they say they do.
Right.
From an exercise standpoint, from a manual therapy standpoint,
Nutrition
from
standpoint.
a white hat standpoint, whatever. They're totally lying. Like
Right.
that's because people don't know. But most of them actually do what they say they're going to do, whether there's varying level of evidence, high evidence, low evidence, it still does something.
Right. Evidence that's
where does it fit?
evaluated.
Yeah.
But even a lot of people don't realize too that a lot of research is evaluated based on subjective data. So that's what drives me crazy is like everyone thinks definitively this is this is that. And I'm like, if you actually look at the research, it's not as, quality controlled as you would think, because how objective is someone's subjective rating of how they feel?
For them, it's very important, but
Yes.
but
How does that transfer over to other people?
I'm taking this off.
I'm like, why?
Because I'm not credible with a white hat on. But for instance, if I spread peanut butter on you, and you say your back feels better, I've got a couple choices. I could call you a liar, but maybe not. Maybe your back actually does feel better from Skippy peanut butter.
Right.
Well, how could that possibly work? Well, there's actually real reasons as to how that would work.
Even with socks, lucky socks.
But
that's a real thing.
Especially if something's touching you.
Yeah.
Serotonin, dopamine, especially if you thought it was going to work.
Exactly.
And when something's touching you, oxytocin. No one's measuring these things, but those are all feel-good things.
Right.
So the person isn't lying, but now, if I just say manual therapy and peanut butter are very, very similar at the levels of those neurotransmitters.
Right.
So to think it's going to work for everybody is not correct.
But you saying needling, that's one of the most powerful tools that I've found.
Absolutely.
So you brush over like it's just a given because it is that powerful in your practice. So when did you notice that, and when did you seek out to learn
needling?
Yeah.
So I think probably in the 10s, probably in the 2000s. One of my mentors says, just learn it. Like, just figure it out. Like, because it was really just based on the same way you would treat a trigger point. Like, all the physiology was exactly the same. Instead of sticking my thumb in this spot for 2 minutes,
Yeah.
I would do a knee. And he's like, "Yeah, but it's not legal to do where I live or whatever." He's like, "Fine, when it becomes legal, you'll be ahead. Like, you'll be able to start the next day versus everybody else will go have to find a course."
Right.
So, it turned out that in the Marine Corps, there's no rules. Like, you can kinda do what they did. There's very little that you can't do. Physical therapists in military, almost like primary care providers. You still have to take courses, etcetera,
Right.
but you still need a license in a state. Doesn't matter what the laws of that state are. So that's when I started to needle, and that's where you just learn it and you practice it. But I was using it the same way I would use my hands. That's what I would tell people. I just use needles instead of my
That's
hands. There's
how
no other
and you can treat so many more areas
huge wins.
but the reason why I chose it was because I did massage beforehand, before grad school, just to get extra hands-on tactile awareness and just, I'm working on people and correlating injury things. But I just remember what I could do with my hands in 45 minutes, a needle could do in seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, when you're working with teams, I had 5 guys at once.
You can treat more areas.
Yeah, more areas, and then you
And
can
the
actually do
half-life.
correctives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
too.
found a chiro that I was treating, and he was, not even relevant as a chiro, but he understood what we were trying to do.
Right.
He's like, "I get it." He's like, I come to see you, and I believe I can do exactly what you do with my techniques, except it would take me 2 weeks to do what you do in 1. Now, that's a very sensational message, and it's very flattering coming from another
Yeah,
professional.
that's
But
amazing.
he's like, I would say the half-life of dry needling
Mm.
is much longer than the half-life of great manual therapy for the same reason. That's all I would say. But you gotta be able to do the same thing. If I don't have my needles with me, I still gotta be able to help.
Right. And
Uh,
it's just a tool, another tool in the toolbox. It wouldn't work for everyone. People with anxiety, if I show them that I'm gonna kneel, they start sweating
Yeah, I
and
can't do
start
it.
grinding their jaw. Like, it's not gonna work.
There's he's not an Avenger, but he's Marvel. About 6'5". No, no,
You
this
with
is a
your
this
Disney
is this is a
characters
good
and
story.
your
This is a good story.
Is it though?
So I said, "Yo, you cool with needles?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I said, "Okay." So we start needling, and you know to stop. Like, there's certain things you clearly
Yes.
see. And then, because you can fall out. Like, it's called vasovagal, you know this, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. And I'm like, "Yo, stay in the table." Now, mind you, if I have to be careful not to say his name. He's literally, at that time, literally 6'5", 280. He's lost a lot of weight for, uh when he was on a different TV show. So he's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm gonna stand up." I do not stand up. Do not stands up. Literally falls on me, and I'm like holding him, and I'm in good position. I can hold him because I'm really strong. And he's like, he wakes up. He's looking down at me because I'm 5 foot nothing. And he's like, he's gonna kill me. I'm like, "Oh my god, sit down, sit down. Everything's fine." And he starts to come to, and he's like, what happened? What happened? I said, "You fell out. I told you to stay on the damn table." He's like, "Did I do anything?" "Yeah, you looked like you're gonna kill me." And he's like, "What?" Like, I'm like, "You want anything?" He's like, "What? You want anything?" He's like, "Why?" I said, "Because if that happens again, I have to call 911. Like we have, and I need them to know how to help you better." So he's like, "No, no, I'm clean. I'm fine." I said, "Okay, cool." He's like, What?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't really do well with needles." I said, "Why didn't you tell me that in the beginning?" So the that can obviously happen, and there's no way to know until it happens. So not everything works for everybody. Not everything works for
I
everybody.
had that happen twice. Well, so I had a patient that had CTE, and then I had one of my NASCAR drivers, and my NASCAR driver fell out, and the patient with CTE was nonverbal and just would get up and do random impulsive things. And so he was not stable either. So, Daniel Suarez is over here fell into me. And then I'm trying to grab the other guy at the same time. And I'm like, somebody help me.
Mm.
And same thing like with Marine Corps and NASCAR, we didn't have a lot of rules. So I did a lot for one person and I was juggling a lot of things at once. But yeah, it's so interesting because it's, just high intense situations and high risk, and you have to be able to keep your cool. There's so many things that go into what we do that people don't realize. And I feel like you do a great job at this too, is just you make it look easy because you have so much experience. It's easy to carry that over into teaching someone and getting someone to where they need to be. But people don't realize how much went into that because it's hard to vocalize what you know and to get someone to do what you want them to do. And so that's an art in itself.
That's needles are very. I would say that the hands down the most powerful tool.
Hmm.
But you can't. Not everybody wants to be needled.
No,
It's literally invasive, and
right.
obviously in some places not supposed to do it. But also important to not confuse the type of needling that I'm talking about with Asian medicine, which I think is fantastic.
Just
But
completely
but
different.
it just it's hard because it doesn't go off the laws of biology and physics.
Right.
So I would have to say biology and physics, it works, but they just think it works for a different reason. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's biology and physics that it does
Right.
work.
Different
But
tool for,
if you feel better, then it will. Just like peanut butter, it doesn't.
Right.
So there's no commentary that Asian medicine is not good or
Right.
anything like that. Now, if an Asian medicine person would say a physical therapist shouldn't be dry needling, then they can go sit in the corner and be quiet.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the quality of what the work can do. It just goes by a different set of rules.
Yes.
A physical therapist may call something a high velocity, low amplitude thrust. Chiropractor will call it a manipulation. Asian medicine will call it bone setting. They all
Right.
look relatively similar.
Right.
So it's all the same, but especially when you talk about needling, is important. Like acupuncture and Asian medicine is really, really effective. Is not the same as what at least I'm taught.
Right. No, not at all. Not at all. But it's such an effective method. And Chinese medicine is a crucial part of de-stressing people to allow me to help them. So I'm like, yep, go ahead. Like, especially with a high stress life, if you can add something like that in, I'm like, go ahead. So there's two things that I ask everyone. I want to ask you these questions. And we kind of talked about, the different modalities that you like. But if you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, don't react so quickly and keep your mouth shut.
And is it, keep your mouth closed as far as like not telling your message or what? Just like,
No, like don't
let your ego run your
No,
life?
like for instance, no, definitely not ego, because I don't think ego is a bad thing. You can channel your ego
Yeah.
to do good things, or things that are like technically sins. Like if you can harness them, then you can help people or make your life better. So I know it's not ego. That's one of the three things. Don't ever say I have a big ego, because don't ever ghost me. Don't ever say I have a big ego, and don't ever lie. Like those are the three
The
things.
Charlie Bible?
Yeah, those are the three things. But no, it would be don't care, which is inherently not me. Like I said before, like, okay, if I believe I'm correct, like, let it ride. And different situations where I have not been as successful as I should have been would be because I didn't wait long enough. I wasn't strategic. And a lot of times strategic sounds like a bad word. Like it's like you're being slick or
Right.
deft. No, kind of, because I'm in, somewhat high profile, glorified positions where there's a lot of people would hurt other people to have the role that I have. And if I took more time before I judged this situation, then I probably would have been better off. So if I didn't try to intervene and impact, and just wait, kind of wait for your spot. That's really what I mean. Ego just as high. I still want the same result, but I should have waited way longer.
The final question is, what is the most impactful behavior change that you believe can significantly improve someone's life besides everything you've already listed?
Just to have an outlook that many things can be true. You can say something that's inherently negative, and that doesn't have any impact on the next thing that's very, very positive. You can look at your own life like that, or how you position things. Like many things can be true. That way, you can create layers. You're allowed to not like something about a situation or a person, but still have other things that you really do like.
Oh, absolute.
If we look at that, yeah. If we looked at that way.
So good luck this weekend. We will see you. Don't mess up.
Thank you.
Take some pictures for you. And I appreciate you being here. And let's keep winning because we're special. It's what we do. And I love the combination of the strength and conditioning and the performance or the physical therapy. It needs to be more sought after.
Order ice cream.
All right. Thank you to everyone for listening, and thank you so much to Charlie for being here. Hearing about his different tools and modalities that he uses to help change people's lives was so insightful, and it's important to remember that not every tool works for everyone. It's important to keep an open mind. We're humans and we don't understand all information, and we need to constantly be just thinking about new ideas and be open to different ways of doing something. It's really going to keep us creative and keep us progressing as a species. And again, not every tool is for everyone, but sometimes it works for the person it needs to work for. So it's important to remember, keep an open mind, and uncover the physiology behind things, because some tools don't help at all and some tools will change your life. So thank you for being here again. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the episode. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. We'll see you next time.